Yeah, good morning to all, and welcome to the webinar on the community networks. We're very fortunate to have Naveed Haq with us. And let me tell you that there is community networks as such are an important part today, specifically because of the pandemic. Probably at the education sector, I belong to education department. That is, I am a professor by profession. So we have seen that in some of these schools, even in our country, that during the pandemic, the students were not able to connect to the network. Okay. Though the online classes were there, but they are not having the internet facility. So the community network, which is usually a computer-based system, so it is intended to support the communities by extending our own network, by supporting them, by augmenting them. Okay, by using network technologies. This is by and for the community. And let me tell you that this can happen when people come together to build and maintain the necessary infrastructure for the internet connection. So it's something like I have something and I'll extend to the other people. Okay, I'll help my neighbor by extending that particular connection as well, so that everybody could use the net. And in the Asia Pacific IGF, which was hosted by Kathmandu, where we also inaugurated our local chapter at the time. And at that time, the ISOC Hyderabad, okay, on the presidency of Mohan Raidu, we specified that we'll work on three things. Okay. And the first one was the community networks. So we would like to identify certain areas, okay, near to our place, and so that with the support of Naveed, Vikram, and those success stories, we would like to contribute towards community networks in our place. So with this few introductory remarks, I request the President Mohan Raidu Garu to proceed further. Thank you. Over to you, Mohan Raidu.
Thank you, Salman. Thank you, Professor Salman. Welcome to my brothers and sisters to this webinar on community networks from ISOC India Hyderabad Chapter. Our chapter is very young. It was inaugurated on the 10th of April this year itself. And we have organized half a dozen events, including a workshop on universal acceptance, then internet measurement, and APR IGF 2021 Hyderabad Local Hub. And we are planning for IGF Hyderabad Remote Hub this year on the December 8th, tentatively. I think it will be on December 8th. This is the only remote hub in India for the IGF. Then our chapter will host INSIG 2022, and you are all welcome to participate this. The focus of our chapter is on universal acceptance, community networks, and internet measurement. Our chapter has started academic hubs in educational institutions to enable the faculty and students to undertake internet projects. We also bring awareness among our academic community about the various working groups of ISOC, ICANN, IETF, and IGF. So they can start off with the latest technologies in the right time. Today we have a subject matter expert, Mr. Naveed Haq, to talk to us on community networks. Community networks is actually older than the social networks. It started much before the social networks, as early as in the early 90s. Social networks normally are free for expressing on any topic by any member at any time. Whereas the community networks are focused on a particular theme. Either you are contributing to it or you derive benefit from it. Majority of the community networks revolve around the economic benefits. Community networks are working well in Europe and Africa compared to, at least compared to India and Asia. For example, a community network on farming deals with the sharing of information on the aspects of inputs, climate, labor, harvesting, packing, and sales. So this way, the people share the information among themselves, and then they derive benefit out of it. It's just an example. That way, the community network can be established or can be had by communities like weaving community or any like carpentry, like that, any community. In fact, not only the rural folks, even among the urban folks, there can be these community networks on various subject matters.
Mohan, I can jump in. I can introduce myself. That's fine. I think, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
let's make it
sure.
very informal. And good morning,
Okay,
everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be able to talk to you this morning. Why I'm saying good morning, because all of us are from South Asia, as well as I could see in the
yes.
participant list. So it's good morning for all of us. And my name is Naveed Haq. I'm working currently as the regional director for infrastructure and connectivity. And my primary region is Asia Pacific. I have been working with Internet Society since last 10 years. And just telling you some background, I started my journey with Internet Society as a member. Then I was part of forming a chapter in Pakistan. And then later on, I became part of Internet Society as a staff. During the time when I was part of Internet Society as a member, I was working with the Pakistan Telecommunication Authority, which is the telecommunication regulator for Pakistan, as an assistant director. Uh, so when I speak with community, people like you, our chapters, our members, uh, I feel very happy, because I could see I was like you. I mean, I am like you, because I was a member, I was part of a chapter, and now I'm working as a staff. So I'm really happy to talk to you this morning about community networks, and I'm very glad to see that a young chapter uh, in Hyderabad is doing so much of activities and is trying to mobilize its members and community in Hyderabad to learn about what Internet Society is doing and what can be done on ground by the chapter. So thank you so much, Mohan, uh, and all the other leadership of the Hyderabad chapter. Uh, Before I go,
Thank you, David. You're welcome. Uh,
it's a pleasure.
and yeah,
So before I go to my presentation, so I have put some slides out there, which I'll show in a minute time. Um, I would like this discussion to be very interactive. I have been given around 30 minutes to speak, so I would like us to be interactive. I'd like to share some videos as well later, so you can get more idea of how community networks are deployed and how they work. And today we have Bikram Sherishta from Nepal. He has just deployed a community network in a village near Uttaragaya, Nepal. So I'll perhaps invite him as well to just tell you his fresh memory of deploying a community network. So let's go back and look at the background. I mean, why community networks? Why we want or we need to connect the unconnectivity? So this is more or less uh, a situation that we have in front of us. Well, the data is from last year, but nothing much have changed if we see the numbers here. Half of the world population remains offline. And I was hearing from Dr. Sulman about Professor Sulman about the challenges that were faced by the students. And it's not only in India. I have heard and have talked with a lot of communities around Asia Pacific where the students were affected um, uh, by the pandemic, primarily only because they didn't have internet connectivity. Uh, And now, while the half of the global population is offline, still the rate that we see people coming online is slow. There are various reasons behind why there is a slow in the rate at which people are coming online. And one of the primary reason is that the operators, the people, the companies who are supposed to provide connectivity, they are interested, or I usually tell people that, look, if you look at your ISP or your mobile operator, always keep in mind that they are running a business. They have put so much of money to build up the towers, to buy a license, uh, and of course their aim is to bring as many subscribers as possible, because that is their business. They sell internet connectivity to people, and in return they get some money out of it. uh, and no business in the whole world will go and invest in an area where the business couldn't see return on investment. uh, if me as an operator want to go to a village, and my team tells me that in that village there are only 1000 people, and perhaps they would not be able to afford our 4G connectivity or a fixed line connection, I would be very hesitant to put my money into that area, because I see if I put $1 million, I would not get those $1 million back. So it's very natural, and that is the space where complementary solutions like community networks come into play. These solutions which can help us to bring internet connectivity to rural and remote areas, because the traditional ISPs or operators are not interested to put their infrastructure in those areas. Again, I told you the primary reason is return on investment. Now, we have seen during the pandemic that this internet is a lifeline, and the importance of internet has been clearly demonstrated as ever. Over the past 2 years, we have seen a lot of attention and discussions from the government and from the other organizations in the internet ecosystem, talking about that we need to provide internet. It's the technology that can help the humanity to move on and keep their life as normal in the situations like we are facing now. So the need to connect people is as urgent as ever. Now, community networks are networks built, managed, and used by local communities. That's why we also label them as internet by the people, for the people, or internet by the community, for the community. They are usually a last mile networking infrastructure. So if you see the infrastructure, uh, if you can want to draw an infrastructure, how it works is that you have a last mile, which is that last connectivity from that tower or from that telephone exchange that comes to your home. So that's the last mile. Before last mile is the middle mile, which is your domestic infrastructure, which could be fiber optics or other wireless technologies. And then the first mile is the connectivity that your country has with the outer world, which usually is run by undersea cables. So the first mile, the middle mile, and the last mile. The first mile and the middle mile, uh, usually in across the world, are very well built. Although in some cases the middle mile is not well built, but primarily, if we see, the problem lies with the last mile. That is that last wire, the last connectivity that has to come to the user. Now, that last mile infrastructure is where community networks come in, and they are built using a low cost Wi-Fi equipment. Now, why Wi-Fi? Because Wi-Fi comes under ISM band, which is globally defined band. It's a band which is used for providing connectivity and a lot of other experimental and scientific stuff. But Wi-Fi, actually, when it was introduced in a band which was unlicensed band, which means that you don't have to take a permission to use that band. And that's why we see Wi-Fi actually got so much of popularity over the last many years, that wherever now you go, in a cafe or in a restaurant or wherever you want to move, people would like to ask for what is the Wi-Fi username and password. So given that these networks are small networks and they cannot afford a huge investment or capital, that is the reason these last mile networking infrastructure, which we call as community networks, are built on technologies which either are very cheap or they are free to use. So Wi-Fi, of course, is one of those technologies which is used in case of community networks. Some of the community networks are even fiber based. There are certain examples in Africa where a community network actually came in as a small or medium enterprises. If you remember, there was a time when the cooperatives businesses were thrilling in a lot of developing countries. So the government will support cooperatives or small or medium enterprises, and these people will actually invest in certain technology or a certain business, and that business is based on profit, but it is overall for a community. So they don't make much profit out of it, but it is still a business. Now, community networks, of course, to me personally, can help to bring back entrepreneurship, bring back the cooperative business model, and strengthen the small and medium enterprises. We have seen in South Asia that small and medium enterprises have not flourished as they could have. And personally, again, I think internet or community network is one of those areas which could be considered to bring in the small and medium enterprises to invest into connectivity and provide internet to small communities, rural communities, or remote areas. There are a few TV white space pilots as well that we have seen lately in Indonesia and Philippines. So TV white space is actually a broadcasting spectrum, and it has been not much utilized. So what some of the communities have think about is that why don't we use that spectrum which is available and see if we can pilot some community networks around it. So generally, wireless and wired routers, mobile phone base stations, they interconnect the member of the community, and the backhaul links connect them to the internet. So, you get a backhaul, and then using the backhaul, you deploy a Wi-Fi, a TV white space, or in some cases, a fiber-based last mile network, which is the infrastructure of a community network. But these networks are more than just about deploying the infrastructure. They are about the community, because during my interaction and my work around this space, I've seen that community network, they not only just provide the internet, they provide an opportunity to empower the unserved and underserved communities. Because most of these networks or most of these solutions are deployed keeping in mind the needs of the community, and they are deployed by involving the community. So it's not like a traditional network operator who comes in, puts up a tower, tells you that this is the internet, this is the package, you will pay me $10 for 2 GB connectivity. But rather, it's a network where you bring people from that area or that community to help themselves to build a connectivity solution for themselves. So which means that you are not only providing them internet, but you are empowering the local community as well. And we have a lot of cases, a lot of stories of those individuals who have been part of this deployment, and they have learned how, for example, you do the networking. They have learned how you manage a community. They have learned how you provide local content services to a community. Again, in the later part of my presentation, I'd like to share few small short videos, so that will help you to understand, how they are different than traditional network. It's not only about providing connectivity. They are diverse. You see this picture. So this is one of those people, he lives in this community, and he has, made himself as a community network champion. And he's the one who has provided connectivity to his own community. And he's the one who runs that network. So again, it's not that if the network goes down, you call your ISP or your mobile operator that my network is not working. Rather, if the networks go down, it's the community who troubleshoots the network. So usually there are various sizes. We know there are very small community networks that are connecting 50 people, and then there are very large cooperative based community networks that are serving up to 50,000 people. Various technology, I've said it in my earlier slide, Wi-Fi, municipal network, mesh network. Some are only for voice and SMS only. They have different purpose. Some have to gain access. Some is to improve affordability. I mean, there are areas where there is already connectivity provided by an operator, but it's very expensive. So then community come up with a solution where they try to mitigate the cost and improve the affordability. And then there are different governance models. Some of the community networks are run by non-profit association, some as cooperative, some as small business. And then we have seen some of the projects which are a result of a partnership between the government, NGO, technical community, network operators, and academia. So there are different flavors and different types and different purpose of a community network. So you cannot say that it's a one solution that fits all. Rather, it depends on the community, on the area, and on the needs. Now, again, they essentially offer a complementary solution to last mile connectivity. Why we say this complementary solution is because when we talk about community network, some of the operator or some of the people start thinking that maybe, it's another traditional commercial network coming to replace the existing network. So it's absolutely not that. It's a complementary solution. It complements the need of last mile connectivity. It complements the need of connecting the unconnected. It's affordable. It's offer flexible connectivity. In this photo, you can see it's a community network which was deployed in Murabinda, Zimbabwe. And you see it's a container. Vision Internet, Link Net, and you can see, it's all done by the community. They have made this container which serves as an internet center for a village in Murabinda. And they are working to inspire local talents, because using this internet connectivity, they are providing technical and other type of education to the local young community, so they can learn and they can show their talent. Of course, community networks also achieve the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. And with this pandemic, the need is more than ever. A key actor is a local champion. So this young boy, he's 17 years old. He's from Kyrgyzstan, up in the Central Asia, and he's a local champion in his community. Because this guy, Ibrahim, a 17 years old boy, when we started working with the community in Kyrgyzstan, where the ISOC Kyrgyzstan chapter was also involved, he came up as someone who wanted to learn about networking. He wanted to learn about how he can help his community to get internet access. And during that journey, he has become a key actor. He's become a champion, and he's the one who manages and governs that network with the community. So people make difference, and that is the key DNA of a community network. It's all about community, about the people. They don't need to be highly technically trained. Uh, and once we go into the, in that area, or and we start working, we do provide all the technical training to the people who are interested to learn. So it's not very sophisticated network. It's a simple network which doesn't require too much of technical knowledge. And even if there is no technical knowledge, organizations like us are there to help people to learn uh, and then deploy the network themselves. So they are the creators of community, and I'm always very fascinated when I meet these people. There are 4 stages of development and deployment of a community network. So how you start and how you deploy. It all starts with an engagement. So for example, this call that we're having today is to inform the Hyderabad community about the community network. So that's the start. You engage with the community, or community approaches us or other organizations in this space that they are interested to know more about community networks, and they would like to deploy a community network if possible. So that's the first stage. You engage with the community, you mobilize them, you see the assessment, the need, and then of course you identify an area where there is a need to deploy such solution. The second stage is policy. Of course, we always are very mindful, and when we talk with the community, we ask them to make sure that by the existing policy and regulatory framework in their country, the community networks can be deployed. Uh, I don't remember any country where we have found any policy challenges, but it's always good to check so that later on, once you have deployed the network, it doesn't show as something which is against the existing policy and regulatory framework. Now, as I was saying, Wi-Fi is a free spectrum, so that's not a problem. But in some cases, there could be some, prohibition that, okay, you can deploy Wi-Fi up to, say, a 10-meter area. So it's always good to check that policy. And as far as India is concerned, we don't have any policy and regulatory challenge. We have already deployed more than 130 community networks, and there are more that has been done by IIT Mumbai, and we have Dr. Sarbani with us. Maybe I can ask her later to tell about some of her work around community networks. So, but anyhow, that's part of the stage, the 4 stages. The third one is training, of course, where we and other organizations like us provide training. It includes social training, technical training, and other type of training. Because one thing that we want to ensure is that the community networks are not a public Wi-Fi or a free Wi-Fi network. These are not the networks where you can go and you can start using Facebook or social media or something like that. We want to make sure that the community takes this network as something which is their network, and they use it to its maximum usability. So it's not about Facebook, it's about those services, it's about those content which are relevant and which are useful, which can bring socio and economic empowerment rather than something which is used for entertainment. And given that usually the bandwidth is not too much, it's usually a very low bandwidth network. So we want to make sure that it's used in a proper way. The last and the most important, of course, stage is the deployment, where you build an infrastructure and you start providing the internet connectivity. Now, what we need for our community networks is to thrive as an organization. We at the Internet Society have been working on community networks since 2010. And I'm very pleased to share that India was the country where we started this journey back in 2010. So from India, Internet Society started working on community networks. And now, as an organization, we are working around across the globe. So India, of course, is our starting point. Now, some of the pillars, of course, that are needed for community networks to thrive: policy and regulatory. It's important that the country has a favorable policy environment. Backhaul is a very important, because if you don't have backhaul, you cannot provide the last mile connectivity. So you have to have an access to the fiber or a ISP who's willing to provide capacity. You need that backhaul, So for example, you take 10 Mbps connectivity from an ISP or a mobile operator or a fiber solution provider, and then you extend that to the remote or the rural connective community using the technologies like Wi-Fi and TV white space, etc., etc. Knowledge, know-how. The community should have technical capabilities required to maintain and expand the network. So usually when we work, we always suggest to use the off-the-shelf equipment, not like a hi-fi sophisticated equipment, because the more sophisticated equipment is, the more difficult it becomes for the community to manage it. Users, of course, you need a critical mass of the user, and sustainability. That is always a key challenge, Okay, you have built a network, you have started providing internet service, but how you sustain it? Because without finances, you cannot sustain it. So, that's also a key pillar of discussion, how you do that. There are challenges. I'll not go into details, but you can quickly go through. These are some of the challenges that the CN face: licenses, spectrum, scaling, competition, sustainability, electricity. Of course, in some remote areas, they don't even have power. So that's where first you have to think about, okay, how you will have a sustainable power supply, so the internet keeps on running through the network. These are again some of the challenges. This picture is from India. This is a training that we provided back in 2017, where we brought around 10 people across the globe in India. We took them to a village, and we told them how a community network is deployed. So capital expenses, usually organizations like us do provide initial funding to meet the capital expenses of equipment, if there is a fee of license and backhaul. And then later on, once you go into operations, you have to make sure that you have sustainability available. But I mean, we can discuss later about various models of sustainability which are available. In some cases, for example, in Indonesia, they do charge for the internet connectivity, but a very bare minimum. So for example, maybe a half $1 for a connectivity, giving internet vouchers. So there are a lot of different models across sustainability and meeting the operational expenses. This is the most important, the regulatory and policy support. I'm happy to share that recently, over the past 3-4 years, since we've been working and other partners been working, we have seen a good a shift in the mindset of the regulators and policymakers. And we have seen in countries, and I'll give you some example. For example, in PNG, Papua New Guinea, which is a small island down in the Pacific Ocean, we are currently working with the government, the regulator, and they have provided the funds, the public funds, through their universal service program to deploy a community network. They have also announced for 2022 to the public in PNG to come up with the connectivity projects based on community network. And if those projects are powerful enough, the regulator will provide public fund, again the universal service funds, to those proposals to actually deploy the network. So that's a huge win from Asia Pacific. And then there are other examples from Latin America, where regulators have even started giving social purpose licensing or special purpose licensing for helping solutions like community networks. Policy and regulatory continues. There's a lot of support that we need, and we always advocate for them. And whenever we talk with the government, that these are the areas where you can you can come in and you can help to connect the people in your country to get connected. And again, a favorable policy and regulatory environment is our objective and aim as well. I'm sure, if, for example, tomorrow the regulator announces that you come to us, you take $1,000 license and you can deploy a network and you can run your business, there would be a huge interest from a lot of people in many countries who would like to come and start their own business as a small internet service provider in shape of a community network. We also talk with the network operators and business entities, to help them to recognize community networks again as an essential and complementary player, not as a competitive player in their market. And of course, there are a lot of examples where we have engaged in partnership with an ISP or a telecommunication service provider, because they are required to provide the backhaul connectivity, and in some cases share the infrastructure and spectrum as well. Some of the operators have even given funds to deploy community network as part of their corporate social responsibility. And some of them do offer technical expertise through their engineers to install, upgrade, and operate a network. So these are some quick examples. Argentina regulator has formal recognition of community network. In Chile, community networks can apply for funding from the government telecommunication development fund. In Europe, the European Commission endorsed community networks as a complementary business model in its broadband investment guide. Then all of the countries above, Argentina, Brazil, France, Germany, Mexico, South Africa, Spain, Uganda, they have provided license exemptions or license fee exemptions for community networks. In Nepal, they charge only $1 for rural internet service provider license. Again, Mexico, India, the Supreme Court hold the spectrum can be allocated on a license exempt basis for organization with a social or welfare purpose. That was a huge win a few years back in India. China, USA. So you see, there are a lot of countries who are already into the space of supporting and helping community networks. These are the places where we are currently partnering with community to deploy our community network. So you can see there are a lot of places around the world where Internet Society currently is working, sometimes with the local non-profit organizations, sometimes with the cooperative, sometimes with the chapter as well. So to find more about community networks, these are some of the links that you can go and you can know more. And this wireless for communities, w4c.in, I would, because you are from all of, okay. For Indian audience, this is a link where I would like you to go and check the work that we have done so far in India on community networks, and you will see a lot of healthy information that would be useful. With that, I will say thank you so much, and I'll stop sharing my screen, and we can perhaps start taking some questions. I see we have around 12 minutes, and then if there are no questions coming up, I would like to maybe invite Vikram and Sarbani. And then if we have time, I'd like to share some quick videos as well, if possible. So over to you, Mohan.
Yeah, let's invite Vikram and Sarbani also. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mohan. Thank you, Naveed. Thank you for providing opportunity to highlight some of our project which we had already established. I think when I was a president for Indian Society, I established 3 community network in different part of our Nepal, because in Nepal, because of the geographical structure, we have very difficult, and we have 3 kinds of land. One is Tarai, and one is Madhya Tarai, and one is the mountain and hills. So in mountains and hills in rural area, it's very difficult to reach there because of the bad road condition and all. There is no road access. So if there is no road access, then it's very difficult to carry the things, the network and computers and all the things to the reach. That's our challenges we have been facing in Nepal. So in 2017, we had established 3 community network after the huge earthquake in Nepal in 2015 in April. So after that, we came to know that the power issue is the main issue in the remote areas to get connect to the people to reach themselves with family members. So it's very difficult to at that time, and we came to know that so because of the power they couldn't make it to connect with their families and friends. So we get support from the international and friends and organization to reach there, and to we get support from the international to buy some of the power solar system, I mean solar charger system, and then we reach there and we provide with the help of the armies and police through the Beyond the Net project. We get the Beyond the Net project during when I was the president for Indian Society Nepal chapter, and from Dhading, it's the very nearby the earthquake epicenter. That's the we established one community network in Dhading, and one is in Mainapokuri. It's the community development. I mean, one of the this famous Durmush Sundali Foundation. They established the community house, and in that community houses, we established internet, and we provide free Wi-Fi over there. And then in one of the schools in Mainapokuri, it's far away, it's the mountain areas, and we established one community network over there. So that's during my leadership in the ISOC Nepal chapter. I established 3 community network. After that, last 9 months back, we got opportunity to establish one of community network in Uttar Gaya. That's is temporary settle. After 2015, the earthquake, the community, they have to force to leave their settled, I mean their home, and they came to the base of the Uttar Gaya, and that the Uttar Gaya was very temporary settlement, but because of no other arrangement by the government, they have to force to live over there. And we came to know that there was no internet, and during this pandemic, they don't have access to, they have to live in a home, but they couldn't make their schools. They couldn't have study, and that's the main issues. And we had already established there, but some challenges we have been facing because of the road condition, bad road condition. Even though it's very difficult to reach there, and my team, they have been there, and just last 2 weeks back, we have totally finished. We have completed that community network, and we have handed over to the community also. And as per my experience, one of the challenges we have been facing in Nepal, that sustainable model. So it's very difficult to make the sustainability model. So that's what was one of the challenges. And other challenge is content. We don't have much content in Nepali, but in Nepali language, in Devanagari, we also use the Devanagari language script. That's one of the challenges we have been facing in Nepal. So that's another challenge we have been facing. There was a digital divide in, if they got the internet and Wi-Fi, but also they couldn't make it. And other challenges, having this internet, but they don't know how to use that internet in the society, in the community. That challenge we have been facing in Nepal. And we used to say that digital first in Nepal, but due to the access of internet and due to the remote areas, it's very difficult to establish the ISP. And the second one, I have been planning to go for the on the way to the mountain, Mount Everest. Whoever is traveling to the Mount Everest, they couldn't make their connect with their people, their friends and families. So we are trying to establish one community network in highest in the world. So that's our next mission. So we are planning for that community network. Thank you, Mohan. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity to highlight some of our experience in this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram. What is the utility of this network? I mean, community network. How are the folks? How are the people using it for? What's the usage?
Main the purpose is I already said that the one of the student she told me that because of the internet, the connectivity, or they forced to use 2G or 3G network of this telecom, but it's very difficult, it's very costly, so they couldn't make that from that connect 2G or 3G. So one of the main core is for the education, the student, the community, they have been using this internet for their study, their education purpose. And second one is the important factor is that most of the family members, they have been left that place abroad for the economic, for the they have to force to go abroad, and in abroad they couldn't make their then they couldn't connect with their families, and that was the major factor to use this internet to get connect with their families and friends. And for other, they have their local product, the handmade product, handicraft, and they couldn't make their marketplace. So if they get this internet, then they will definitely have this marketplace for this their products or their handmade goods.
Correct. That's a good use case. Yeah. Thank you, Vikram.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Naveed?
Yeah, I would like to invite maybe Sarbani quickly. Sarbani, if you can just quickly share with some of the experience that you had in India.
Yes. Thank you. I'm very happy to share my work in the domain of setting up community networks to grow. I focus a lot, our work focuses a lot on the use case, as Mr. Mohan mentioned, about the use case of connectivity. So the thing that we do is that we not only seed the community network to grow, but we also base it on the needs of the community. Like, for example, in a remote village in Maharashtra, where we set up the community network to grow, because there is no connectivity, internet connectivity, so they have to travel 10 kilometers one side, one way to the city to even get their check their bank account or withdraw cash from the ATM. So that was one of the needs of the community. So what we did is that we set up a SIM card based cellular router in the community, and the SIM card based cellular router, we identified 2 women from the community, and we empowered them to become a digital correspondent, and the other to become a banking correspondent. And the SIM card was inserted, their SIM cards were inserted in the SIM card cellular router, and she could avail of the Wi-Fi signals on her phone, and through Aadhaar enabled payment system and biometric device, she is enabling banking services to the people in her village. So that is one use case of the online connectivity. We also have, so this lady over time, she has diversified herself by bringing in more services, like, for example, mobile recharge, paying electricity bill, and the digital correspondent enables the other facilities like the government of India has enabled, like birth certificate, Aadhaar card, all the things that the government of India has enabled, and it was not reaching these places. so that is the online usage, but our network is online only at that location where the sim card based cellular router is put up, and it is used only by those two ladies whom we have empowered. The rest of the network in the village is an offline mesh network. And in this mesh network, what we have done is we have enabled local knowledge aggregation. So this is a remote this remote village has indigenous tribal population who have a lot of local knowledge amongst themselves, and they don't have a repository of their knowledge. So the knowledge is passed down from generations to generation after generation, by just word of mouth. It is not by anything, there's no repository. So the community wanted to create a repository of those knowledge. And they have music, they have dance, they have painting, they have biodiversity, like they know different types of food, fruits, vegetables, what time to grow them, everything they know. So we enabled this in the mesh network. They are the ones who come to the Wi-Fi access point, and then on their mobile phone, they can access the mesh network on their mobile phone, and they record information, either it is audio or it is video, and they share it on the mesh, and it is all stored in a local access server. So that local access server is the place where the community is gathering all the information. Now, we have also taken care of the sustainability of the network. And how have we done that? Is this, we identified certain art and craft, and we wanted to make them as products. And of course, with the intervention of the villagers. So those products are put up on the online platform. We have an e-commerce platform set up for them, for the community. And the community puts up their on the art and craft on that e-commerce platform. Or for example, if a farmer has some excess rice, for example, paddy, the new variety of paddy that he has grown, or if there is some lentils or whatever, cereals or whatever that they have grown, and those can be put up online in that e-commerce platform, and it is sold online, and the amount of money goes back directly to the farmer. That's how we have made the model sustainable. So it is, we wanted to give them the flavor of internet or connected in network in that offline network as well. And there are various uses of that offline network, like for example, community radio as a medium can be used a lot. And various of these things are being used quite a lot by the people in our communities. So this is a project, seeding community networks to grow in the last mile. It's a project by Association for Progressive Communications based out of South Africa. And I am the Asia Regional Coordinator for it. And I work with organizations seeding community networks to grow in India, Indonesia, and Myanmar. So in Myanmar, we do have a community network as well. And they are working, I mean, during this political coup, they are not able to work, but it has been a blessing in disguise, where the community is already in place together, and they are using a lot of information dissemination about the political coup in their community radio. Haisha FM is the community radio in Myanmar. Yeah, so we also use a lot of other frugal technologies, like we have begun using an open source hardware router now, which is called the Libre router. We have begun manufacturing the Libre router here in India. to cut down on the cost, because otherwise if we ship it from abroad, it is becoming very expensive, and it is not possible for the communities to procure those routers and deploy it. We have also started using bamboo towers. So towers that are made up of bamboo from within the community as local resources. Yeah, so that's from me.
Nice. Thank you, Sarbani. Do the communities interact with other country communities also?
No, so they don't do it on an online platform, but every year we organize a multi-stakeholder meet. Like our counterparts from Indonesia and Myanmar have come and visited the community network. So we have these exchanges where our community people can go to other places in India to understand their community, how that community network is working and how they can benefit. Indonesia counterparts and the ones from Myanmar had come over to our community network. Yes.
Okay. These are all localized networks. They can't communicate with the other networks, isn't?
Yes, no, they can communicate, but we are not enable. I mean, see, the thing is that we can enable them the bandwidth, but then who pays for the bandwidth? That's a big question. So, so that is why what was affordable by the community, we have enabled that. A SIM card based cellular router is something, because the SIM card recharge can be done by the banking correspondent and the digital correspondent. So that is the reason why we have enabled that as a technology there for connectivity. The rest of the network is an offline network. Yeah.
Okay.
And just one more thing I would like to say is that we do have policies, enabling policies for rural connectivity in India, but most of the policies are not focusing on sustainability, which is a big challenge. Like the BharatNet in India. I mean, the BharatNet optical fiber is deployed all over India now, but some of the places it is not switched on, or the fiber is destroyed, and those things are there. So one thing that we are currently trying to work on is include internet for development in the Gram Panchayat development plan. And that could be one way of financing the last mile with internet, because the Gram Panchayat development plan is there, GPDP is there, and they have everything that is agriculture development, everything, but they don't have internet for development. And that could be one place which we could tap in, so that it becomes an affordable solution for connecting the unconnected. Yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Sarbani. It's a good information to start new networks. Naveed, I have one question. Is the community networks used for reaching the unreached, or can there be community networks in the urban areas also for particular communities?
There are in urban community, for example, one of the famous urban community network is New York Mesh. So New York City has a community network, and they call itself a New York Mesh. And when we tell people, people get little surprised that really there's a community network in New York. So yes, see, actually community network is something that brings empowerment to the community, and there could be various factors behind. One of the factors could be affordability, like I said in my presentation. So in urban areas where the internet is very expensive, and there are communities which are not economically strong, there are solutions which can help them to get connectivity on an affordable prices. So New York is one of the examples, Mohan, that I'll share here about a community network in an urban area. And Jolly has just put a link to their web link, as I mean the URL to their web page. You can go there and you can check about this to know more about New York Mesh Network.
But is it to do with the cost only, or in functionality wise also there can be some groups like?
Well, it's not only about the cost. Yeah, it's not only about the cost. It's also about the services and the speed in some cases, because given that the urban population is growing and there are spots inside a city where the connectivity is very poor. So, to mitigate the challenge of poor connectivity as well, these kind of networks can bridge that space and bring a better, a more faster internet connectivity to those spots in a city.
Naveed, Bala here. I have two questions. In fact, this question can be applicable to Bikram and Sarvani also. How do you measure the success of the community networks? Second part of my question is, can community networks be secured for communicating certain private information? And is there a trustworthy community networks we can create?
So Jolly has just put that there was another reason why, which is a selling point for New York Mesh, is that they don't spy on you. So that's, it's kind of an answer, because it's a network which is secured in a way that the communication remains within the community and they feel more comfortable that no outer organization is spying on them. In terms of sustainability, Bala, Sarbani just told us about coming up with a marketplace where, the local community who are making some kind of product, or there is something that they can sell, but they don't have a direct market access. So you actually help them to get that access to the market. I remember in Chanderi, which is also in India, there are people who are very famous for handicrafts, and they make very nice designs on sari and other fabrics. So in Chanderi, we actually help those women who are doing weaving to come up with digital designs and then put their product to sell over YouTube and other online mediums. So now what happens is that the buyer is directly connected with that community through that community network, and there is no middleman. And whatever is being sold comes back to the community, and that's a factor of sustainability, because if you give internet to the people, you have to give some substance behind it, that it's not only that it provide you connectivity, but it also brings some economic and social empowerment. So and in some cases, for example, in Indonesia, they have internet vouchers. In Africa, there is a community network which is deployed in partnership with Coca-Cola. So what you do is that there's a small shop, you go to that shop and you buy a Coca-Cola bottle, and in return with that bottle, you get an internet voucher of 1 hour. Now, what Coca-Cola sees that for them, they are selling their product, but they are meeting their corporate social responsibility by giving that 1 hour internet back to the person who's buying that bottle of Coca-Cola. And that's a part of sustainability, because that partner, which is Coca-Cola, is putting investment to make it sustainable, but they're selling their products as well. In some other cases, there are funding provided by a global organization. So I recall there are few projects where community have demonstrated the need of sustainability, and they have gone to one donor asking for funding. They got the funding, and then based on their success, they got to another donor. So that's another model, where you keep on looking for some donor. I have seen some. So for example, there is a network, and if we have to, I'd like to show the video which we have just deployed in Pakistan. It's a network which is for farmers, only for farmers. We call it Digital Agriculture Community Network. And what has happened now is that the local organizations, which are agriculture-based organizations, they have come to us and they have said that we are more than happy to invest into this network to make it sustainable, because it serves our purpose. So there are different dimensions. It's like, you have to really look at the need and assessment of the community and what are the selling point that can make it sustainable. I agree, it's always a challenge, but there are a lot of solutions around it, Bala, that can mitigate the sustainability problem. The second question about the secure. So though they are deployed on Wi-Fi, but usually we don't encourage the community to keep it as an open public Wi-Fi. We always help them to deploy some of the services which keep it secure and which keep it in a, I would say, not in a controlled environment, but in a way that it's not that you go on your mobile and you just connect to a network. There is some credentials which are required, because otherwise people might start abusing the bandwidth, which is very important in this case of a smaller network. So yeah, we do deploy services like Radius, where there are username and password authentication required. We do deploy WPA authentication, which is a secure, which makes a network more secure. So yes, we do actually keep that in our mind when we deploy a community network, to make sure that the community feels more comfortable while accessing this network, and they are made sure that no one is interfacing or checking their traffic.
Thank you, Naveed. I believe secured community networks will be the most important element as part of the usage and adoption. And further to that, the ability to reach to the mass in the rural and urban areas where we can really bridge the gap of digital divide should be the success criteria for the community networks to evolve. Thank you. Thanks for the response.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Naveed. Nice presentation by you and Vikram and Sarbani. Just one question: is this community network is limited for the people who are located in that community? I mean, geographically located in the community. Should others can access that kind of facilities that are available through the internet? Because you see, it should be reachable, right? The community network is reachable no matter where you are. The question is whether the things that are provided to the community network are specific to that community, or else is it going to be used by the others, not necessarily in that community?
So that's a very good question. So in terms of the coverage of the network, of course, it is limited in that geography. So as far as the access is concerned, people living in that geographical area of a kilometer or 2 kilometers, depending on the size and the design of the network, can access the internet or can use the community network. Now, what happened is that usually we do encourage the community network to put up their own website or to put up their own services. So, for example, this community network that we have deployed now in Pakistan for farmers, what we are doing now is that we are making sure that these farmers are able to communicate or interface with other farmers. So, it's like sharing their knowledge. So these farmers are part of a community network. The other farmers which are not part of a community network, we are finding a solution where they can talk with these farmers, perhaps on a Google Meet call like this or a Zoom call. So they can exchange their experiences about harvest, about the weather condition, about the pesticides, and etc., etc. So in terms of geographical location, yes, it's bounded because that's how the network is designed. But in terms of sharing information and interfacing with the outer world, there are a lot of ways, and we do encourage, again, as I said, put up your website, inform people about what you are providing, and then make sure that you are able to share your knowledge and experience with the wider community. And it's not that something which is restricted inside a particular population, but rather whatever they are doing or whatever they are learning is shared. And it's important because if we confine themselves inside a boundary of a community network, then it becomes very difficult for these people as well to know more and to share what they are, or in fact learn from other people. So I'll give you another example. That's also a project that we did 2 years back. we deployed a community network. We connected a school, a primary school, up to grades 8. And we then went to a city in Islamabad. We talked to a teacher there, and we said that, why don't you provide online classes to these grade 6 girls who have connectivity now, but they would like to learn something more than their existing curriculum, because in that school they had a problem of a science teacher. She was not available. So for 3 months we ran up online classes for a grade 6 girls sitting in a rural school, taught by an expert teacher sitting in Islamabad. And I can share the case study as well. We were really surprised to see the the curve of increase in their knowledge. So we did an assessment before they started the classes, and then we did another assessment once we finished those 3 months supplementary classes for them. And there was a very noticeable difference between their understanding on science and mathematics concept before and after we did that. So I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah, they're excellent. And this is what I'm looking at actually. It should be accessible across. That's
Yes.
there. Thank you.
Naveed, I have one question.
Yes, please, Saram.
Yeah. So since we are working on the community network, so there is an opportunity, like there is a chance that nodes and link might fail over the time. So how do you do the maintenance of those infrastructure?
So a good question, and I was telling in my presentation, that's where we always make sure that we have people from the community, because a lot of I would say it's not a failure point per se, but it can be a failure point. For example, if experts like us come to our community, we deploy a network, and then we tell them about this is how you can use internet, etc. We provide some training, and then we go back. Now, what happens when we go back and after 2 months the network shutdowns or there is a failure? That is why we always make sure that this network is managed and run by the community itself. So we train the local people about all the technical details, about the basic troubleshooting. In case an equipment goes off, like for example a switch goes off and you have to replace it, we make sure that we use an equipment which is off the shelf. We don't buy or suggest the community to use a network equipment which is very sophisticated, given that if the router or a switch fail, how you would replace it? I mean, you cannot go to a city like 200 kilometers away from you and then buy that and bring and replace it. So always suggest to buy an off-the-shelf equipment which are available like maybe a few kilometers or around a town near you, because I know a lot of the towns in countries like us have those computer shops where you can buy cheap off-the-shelf equipment. So there are two elements. One, we make sure that the community is trained enough. They can run the basic troubleshooting. If the network goes down, they are able to manage it. Still, if they are not able to do that, they can approach us and we can help them through some online mechanism. But in most cases, they are able to do it themselves. And then we also give them scenarios. So for example, if this happens, how you troubleshoot. And that's, for us, it's also a learning for them, because in network, there could be different reasons why the network is down. In some cases, it could be even a cable. A cable is plugged out and the network is down. So it's different. But and on the other side, the equipment, for example, if there is a failover of an equipment, we make sure, one, they have a backup, and second, they have an access to the market which is very near to them, where they can go buy that equipment and replace it.
Yeah, thank you, Naveed. I have one last question. Have you worked on joining two community networks, like two different ones over any specific distance range, or can you give me any insight?
Yeah, so there is a network that we have deployed in Rajasthan. So we started with, so I won't say we have joined them, but it's an expansion, So we started up with one village, and the radius of that network was around 1.5 kilometer. And then based on the success of that network, we extended that network reach to other villages, so that one community network became a mesh network, which started with a radius of 1.5 kilometer and extended to a radius of 50 kilometers. So that's what we have done. But in cases, for example, because I cannot think about, like, for example, there are two villages and there are two different community networks. But for example, yeah, that's a good, I mean, yeah, I remember one case where there is one community network in one village and one community network in another village, and we have linked them together so they can talk to each other. Yeah, that has happened. But usually, as I said, in case of India, there is an example where we expanded. We started with a smaller radius. Based on the success, we kept on expanding, and the network is now covering around 50-kilometer radius.
Thank you, Naveed. Thanks for your time.
And Naveed, are there any thoughts of the satellite-based communications?
Yes, so that is a solution which works primarily in a very remote areas. As you know, satellite connectivity usually is very expensive. So that's one of the but now with the LEO, the low Earth orbit satellites coming in, we do see there is an opportunity to think more about how satellite connectivity could be used to connect the unconnected using community networks. So yes, there are some thoughts around, especially after the LEO technology is now, and you could see that a lot of the companies now are investing in these kind of satellite. We have actually started discussing with some of them. Currently, their primary audience is not like very remote places, but places where people can still buy their services, although they are cheaper than the traditional satellite, but still they are not very cheap. But I could see that with the passage of time, maybe a couple of years from now, the satellite connectivity would also play a very important role. There have been some VSAT deployment, especially in the island, the small island down in Pacific. So that's also something which is so for example, in Vanuatu, there are VSAT-based connectivity provided to a community network. But then, as I said, the challenge always with the VSAT or satellite connectivity is the cost. It's more higher. But with the LEO and other things coming up, we had a call with Inmarsat, which, as you might know, was the pioneer satellite company. They started satellite in the world back in 1960s. So Inmarsat actually informed us that they have launched a project where they work with the governments to deploy, not community networks, but something like community network, where they go to a remote area and they provide a very affordable and cheap connectivity solutions. It was around, I think, $6,000 to $7,000 or something around that, if I'm not forgetting, around that figure, to deploy a satellite-based small network to serve a village or a remote place. But still, I think there is a lot of opportunity and room and space coming up in the future where we would see satellite-based connectivity in the space of community networks. I see Bikram want to maybe share some experiences on VSAT.
Yeah, I have been working with VSAT, Ku-band VSAT and C-band VSAT. So in 1999, we started a small ISP in my native place. When I was just 19 years old, I started that ISP with the VSAT, C-band VSAT. At that time, the 64 by 64 kbps bandwidth was cost 64,000 per month. That was my experience. And then after, in 2009, I established one ATM in the Namche Bazaar. The way to the Mount Everest is the highest in the world. One of my good experience, that was my good achievement during that time when I was working in Bank of Kathmandu. And I set up and established one ATM the way to the Mount Everest in the base camp to is one of the area that is Namche. That the area is Namche, and I established. First, I attempt that to establish the ISP, ATM with the local VSAT, but due to the latency of that local bandwidth, the double hop system, and then I came back to Kathmandu, and then I took the SIPs KV-WAN VSAT, and then I able to establish that KV-WAN VSAT, and then I set up and installed that ATM. And that ATM was Diebold ATM, and then the Diebold ATM company, they provide that ATM free of cost to the Bank of Kathmandu. That was my good experience. And that KV-WAN VSAT was some sort of difficulty when the cloud and the heavy rainfall, then the KV-WAN VSAT, the bandwidth was, the fluctuate during that time. That was an experience I had been facing during when I was in Bank of Kathmandu to establish this highest in the world ATM in the Namche. That was my experience. Thank you.
Okay. That's nice. So, any other questions?
Any other questions? Yeah, this has been a very good, actually. I really like. It's very. There are a lot of good questions coming in. So I'm very happy to be part of this. Meanwhile, I'll just share this one YouTube video that you people can.
Naveed, I have a question.
Yes, please.
In your slide, I saw one of those technologies that you were referring to was the TV white space.
Yes.
And my experience has been that TV white space equipment still are very, very costly.
Agree. Yes, Parveen, you are right. So the TV,
yeah.
So the TV white space actually is being experimented in various communities because people want to see what are the opportunities, and if the opportunity clicks, there are always options to make cheaper equipment. So you know how it happens. If you see back, like 10 years back, the Wi-Fi routers were very expensive. A person couldn't afford a Wi-Fi router for his home or for some places. But now when you have seen the market has expanded to an extent where you can get a Microtech or other companies' Wi-Fi routers. Even Sarbani was telling us about an open source Wi-Fi router. So this is how it evolves. I absolutely agree with you that at the moment that the cost of equipment for a TV white space network is very high. But then we want to make sure that we keep on working and test these kind of networks if they make sense. Because if they make sense, then we will make sure that there is an attraction from the equipment vendors to produce cheaper equipment in this as well. So I hope I was able to answer you, Parveen. It's I agree, it's cheap, it's expensive, but that's the start. Once we are able to demonstrate the usage of TV white space for such networks to provide connectivity, over the past few years, the product vendors would make more economical solutions or more economical equipment for that.
Yeah, thanks, Naveed.
Mohan, can I take over?
Yeah, I think if there are no more questions, you can wind up.
Thank you. It was a wonderful connect within the Internet Society Hyderabad Chapter. Thank you very much. I believe digital divide of late has created a great motivation for building much needed community networks, where it has really bridged the gap between the digital divide, where we are able to connect to the schools, to the jobs, to the opportunities, and to each other. We have seen the growth of the internet and the speed of the internet over the period of last 1 year, particularly during the pandemic times. The adoption has increased, demand has increased, and the need for the community networks has ever increased than ever because of the kind of a requirements which has evolved over the period of last 18 months to work from home, to work from school, to get the education at home. And the kind of an examples and the kind of a practical practitioner views which has been shared by Bikram, Sarbani, and Naveed has really enlightened us on the usage of the community networks to bridge the entire connectivity gap. And I strongly believe internet is for the belief and for the people and by the people. And it's this has been constant need and emergence which is triggering many more volunteers to join this bandwagon of community networks and extend their support. The examples what Naveed has provided about a person Ibrahim from Kyrgyzstan, and also the container-based approach in Zimbabwe, really the way people are trying to volunteer and serve this entire nations of their respective areas, and trying to see that the last mile connectivity is really enabled and connecting the people who are not connected so far. And this can really make a big difference. And I encourage the people who are participating today to learn from this kind of a community network volunteers, and request all of you to start a community network as a volunteer and trying to make a big difference by taking up some social responsibility, and share the good knowledge what you have gained, and share the experience which could really trigger many more to expand this particular space, so that we can minimize the digital divide as much as possible and make community networks a secure place to connect, and create a success by making the more people benefit from that. Thank you, Naveed, for the wonderful talk and inspiring and motivational examples, which has really triggered many people to participate and engage. Thank you, Sarbani and Vikram, for sharing your experiences, which were much more useful for us to stay down and really understand the essence of the entire journey. And thank you all the delegates for participating today to make this particular session much more purposeful and impactful. And thank you, Mohan Raidu Garu, for bringing such a wonderful talk with a wonderful speaker to enlighten on the community networks and the purpose behind it. And I also extend my thanks to all the Internet Society Hyderabad Chapter, Exicom, and the chapter office bearers who really behind the thought to motivate many more to join the Internet Society and make a big difference. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you, Naveed, Sarbani, and Bikram. I think we'll be in touch with you for our future projects.
Absolutely, looking forward.
Guidance.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.
Great start to my weekend. And there are some YouTube videos on the chat. Please do watch them, and you will know more about. And we look forward to hear back from you. Bye, and have a good Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.